Grief changes the sound of a house. After Daniel's funeral, every floorboard felt louder. Every clock ticked like it was counting down to something I couldn't name. Even the wind against the windows sounded personal. It had been 3 months when I found the letter. Not in his office, where he kept our bills and bank records, but in the attic, buried under old quilts and Christmas ornaments in a box labeled Winter Lights. I hadn't been looking for secrets. I'd gone up there for the angel that used to sit on the tree. But when I lifted that box, an envelope slid out and fell onto the floor. My name on it, written in Daniel's neat, familiar hand. For Margaret, read when the silence feels heavier than the air. That was his kind of humor. Always poetic in small, private ways, never in public. Even dead, he found a way to talk to me like we were sharing coffee in the kitchen. I sat down on the attic floor and opened it. The air smelled of cedar and old paper. Inside was a note, short, deliberate, Daniel's tone, even from the grave. If you're reading this, you've already survived the hardest part. There's one thing I couldn't fix before I left. Look in the study, bottom drawer. And Margaret, I'm sorry I never told you about her. Her. The word tilted the world. For a moment, I told myself he meant Rachel or Julia, something symbolic, like the girl you used to be. But the phrasing was too plain, too literal. I never told you about her. That night I didn't sleep. I kept hearing his voice, calm and factual, the way he used to say, "It's nothing serious," right before it always was. By dawn, I went to the study. The bottom drawer was locked, the key taped under the desk, his old trick, when he'd used for hiding birthday surprises, and once, a pack of cigarettes he swore he'd quit. Inside, a single cassette tape, dusty, labeled in his handwriting, for Margaret, the truth. I sat there staring at it, my hands cold. The player on his desk still worked. I pressed play. Static first. Then Daniel's voice, rougher, older. "Maggie, if you're hearing this, I need to tell you about Grace, about what happened before you, about the daughter I never stopped looking for." My breath caught. Daniel, my husband of 30 years, steady, faithful, predictable Daniel, had just admitted he'd had another child. I hit pause, shaking. On the cassette's edge, something was etched in pen, almost invisible under the dust. A date, June 12, 1996, the year before we married. And suddenly, our whole marriage sounded like a story I hadn't been told. I waited until the sun was up before pressing play again. The attic light bled through the half-drawn blinds, thin and gray, like the kind of morning that doesn't want to begin. My fingers hovered over the tape recorder. Part of me hoped it wouldn't work, that the sound would blur, that his voice would dissolve into static and let me pretend ignorance was still possible. It didn't. "Maggie," Daniel's voice said, calm as ever. Her name was Grace Turner. I met her before I met you. I was young, stupid, and thought love could erase timing. She got pregnant. I wasn't brave enough to stay. A pause. You could almost hear him swallow. She left town before the baby was born. I tried to find her, letters, calls, but by the time I did, she'd vanished. The only thing I know is that she had the child, a girl. I sent money every month through a friend, but Grace never wrote back. I don't know what happened to them. I kept the receipts in the safe. I hit stop. The word safe made my pulse stutter. We'd shared this house for 3 decades. There was no safe, not that I had ever seen. But Daniel had always been the kind of man who built lairs, locks, drawers, passwords, secrets labeled for later. I rewound the tape, listening again, catching details. A scrape of metal in the background, a soft cough, the creak of his chair. He'd recorded it in his study. That part I knew. The door creaked behind me. Julia stood there, arms crossed, eyes swollen from sleep. "Mom, you're up early." I fumbled to turn the recorder off. "Just sorting through Dad's things." Was that his voice? She asked, softer now. "Yes." "What's he talking about?" "Nothing that concerns you yet." Her mouth tightened. "Don't do that. Don't hide things the way he did." I looked at her, so much of him in her jawline, her stubbornness. "He was a good man, Julia." "Good men don't hide daughters, Mom." The words hit harder than I wanted to admit. She walked out before I could reply. The floorboards carried her anger down the hall. I turned back to the desk. The tape had left a faint ring of dust on the wood. Beside it lay an old brass key I hadn't noticed before, taped underneath the drawer, the kind Daniel used for his filing cabinet. When I held it to the light, there was something scratched along its stem. Basement safe. For the first time since he died, I realized Daniel hadn't just left me grief. He'd left me a map. And whatever waited in that basement wasn't meant to stay buried forever. The basement door had always stuck. It swelled in the summer, shrank in the cold. But that morning, it felt heavier, as if the house itself wanted to hold me back. I flicked the light switch. Nothing. The bulb had burned out years ago, and Daniel never replaced it. I used my phone's flashlight instead. The beam caught dust motes, spider webs, and the outline of old paint cans lined up like soldiers who'd given up. In the far corner, behind the water heater, I saw it. A small gray safe, chest high, its handle dulled with age. Daniel had hidden it well, so ordinary that you'd only notice if you were looking for something that shouldn't exist. I tried the key. It fit too easily. The click echoed up the stairs. Inside were stacks of envelopes bundled with rubber bands, some yellowed with age, others crisp and new. The top one bore a name I'd never seen in his handwriting before, Grace Turner. I pulled it open. Receipts. Monthly wire transfers from Daniel Hale to a P.O. box in another state. The earliest one dated back 26 years. The latest, just 6 months before he died. He'd been sending money the entire time, quietly, faithfully. Another envelope contained letters, unsent, folded and refolded until the creases blurred the ink. They all began the same way. "Dear Grace, I hope you're safe. I hope she's happy. I wish I could explain." The next line always trailed off mid-sentence. He never mailed them.
He couldn't even finish them. I found a small folder at the bottom of the safe labeled Records. Inside, a photocopy of a birth certificate. Name, Emily Turner. Mother, Grace Turner. Father, left blank. But in the margin, Daniel had written in pen, mine. I sank onto the basement steps, clutching the paper like it could explain him. Rachel found me there. Mom, what is all this? Your father's past, I whispered. She crouched beside me. So it's true there's another girl? Yes. Her eyes lit with something that wasn't shock. It was hope. Then we have to find her. Before I could respond, Julia's voice floated down from upstairs. Or we can finally let Dad rest and not dig up every bad decision he made. Rachel shot me a pleading look. You're really going to listen to her after everything? I looked at both of them, my daughters divided by a secret that wasn't theirs. He wanted me to find her, I said quietly. I owe him that much. Julia's answer came sharp, tired. You owe yourself peace, Mom. He already took enough from you. But when I turned the birth certificate over, there was something scrawled on the back in Daniel's pen. Just 3 words that ended the argument before it began. She's closer than you think. I didn't tell the girls right away, but that note, she's closer than you think, wouldn't let me sleep. It felt like a whisper following me around the house, through every ticking clock and dripping faucet. Daniel's voice had always been calm, but now, even from the grave, he was urgent. By the 3rd morning, I'd made up my mind. I took the folder with the birth certificate, the receipts, and one of his unsent letters and drove toward the town listed on the bank slips, Oak Ridge, a small coastal place we'd visited once on vacation decades ago. Rachel came with me, of course. Julia refused, saying she wouldn't chase ghosts. Her words stung more than I admitted. The highway was quiet. We didn't talk much, just watched the landscape shift from suburbs to pine trees and salt marshes. Rachel played with the locket Daniel had given her when she graduated high school, the same one he'd once worn. Do you think she looks like us? She asked. I don't know, but I think he looked for her until he couldn't anymore. We reached Oak Ridge by noon. The town was all sun-faded houses and wind-worn porches, the kind of place that collects secrets like seashells, small, beautiful, half-broken. The address from the bank receipts led us to a quiet residential street. I parked outside a weathered white house with blue shutters. A sign out front read, Turner Antiques. A woman in her 70s was watering the hydrangeas. Her hand trembled slightly, but her eyes were sharp. Excuse me, I said. I'm looking for someone who used to live here. Grace Turner. The watering can froze mid-air. Grace? The woman said. She was my niece. Was? She passed. Years ago. Poor girl. Died young. Heart condition. Rachel and I exchanged a look. My chest felt hollow. I asked, did she have a child? The old woman studied me, weighing something unseen. Yes, a little girl, Emily. She was adopted after Grace died. Nice family. Lived around here for a while. I haven't seen her since she was 10. I showed her the photo I'd found in Daniel's things, the one of a child by the sea. The woman's face softened. That's her. Emily loved the water. My knees went weak. Do you know her last name now? She thought for a moment. She took her adoptive father's name, Henderson. Emily Henderson.
She works at the grocery store by the docks, I think. Rachel squeezed my arm. Mom, the docks are 15 minutes from our house. The world tilted again. Daniel's message wasn't poetic after all. She's closer than you think wasn't about hope. It was geography. As we drove home in silence, I saw her before Rachel did. A young woman behind the counter of the small grocery near the harbor, her hair tied back, her smile painfully familiar. And when she looked up, I swear she saw me first and froze. The grocery store bell jingled when I walked in. Rachel stayed outside, claiming she needed air, but I think she was giving me space. I didn't blame her. This wasn't a moment you could share easily. The store smelled of salt and lemons, the same scent Daniel used to carry home on his shirts after sailing. That small, cruel coincidence almost broke me before I even saw her again. She was bagging groceries at the end of an aisle, hair dark brown, skin lightly freckled. Her face wasn't an exact match, but there were echoes, the curve of the jaw, the quiet concentration, the gentle way she spoke to a child helping his mother at the register. When she glanced up and met my eyes, something flickered there. Recognition or intuition? I couldn't tell. "Hi," I managed. "Emily Henderson?" She hesitated before answering. "Yes. Do I know you?" I smiled, or tried to. "You look familiar. I knew your mother, Grace." Her hand stilled on the register. My mother? She was a friend of my husband's long ago. Emily studied me with a kind of guarded politeness. "That's strange. I don't remember her ever talking about him." "She passed when you were little," I said gently. "I'm sorry." The way her mouth tightened told me she'd heard that line too many times. "It's all right. My adoptive parents raised me well." I nodded, trying not to let the word adoptive hit too hard. We talked about small things, the town, the weather, the ocean, until it became unbearable. The weight of what I wasn't saying pressed against every syllable. I wanted to tell her she had Daniel's eyes, that she'd been loved without knowing it, and every transfer slip in that safe was proof of his guilt and devotion tangled together. But I couldn't. Not yet. When I left, Rachel was leaning against the car, eyes searching mine. "It's her, isn't it?" "Yes. She looks like him." "I know." We drove home in silence, the grocery receipt still in my hand like a confession. At home, Julia was waiting, arms crossed, ready to strike. "Where have you been?" I said. "Out." "You found her, didn't you?" she demanded. "Rachel told me everything." Rachel winced. "Julia, no, she deserves to hear this. You think you're honoring Dad, but you're just rewriting him. He lied, he cheated, and you're building him a halo." Her words cut clean and deep. "I'm not defending him," I said. "I'm finishing what he started." Julia shook her head. "You're breaking this family for a ghost." But ghosts, I thought, didn't usually look you in the eye from behind a grocery counter. And when I went to bed that night, I found a slip of paper under the front door. No return address, no handwriting I recognized, just 4 words. "I know who you are." The note stayed on the kitchen counter all night. 4 words, no name, no explanation, just "I know who you are." It sat there beside the fruit bowl, ordinary and menacing all at once, as if it had been written by the house itself. I didn't tell the girls right away. Julia would have used it as ammunition. Rachel would have wanted to protect me. Both reactions would have made it worse. So I waited. By morning, waiting felt like a mistake. I drove back to the grocery store. The same gray sky, the same bell over the door. Emily was there again, unpacking boxes of produce. She looked up as I approached, wary but not afraid. "You left something at my house," I said quietly, sliding the note onto the counter. She looked at it, then at me, her expression unreadable. "I thought maybe you'd come back." "You wrote this?" "I wasn't sure how else to ask," she said. "You came in yesterday asking about Grace Turner. No one asks about her anymore." My voice trembled. "Because she was your mother." She nodded. "You knew her?" "I knew your father." Silence fell heavy between us, a quiet calculation. Then her eyes widened a little, as if she had just caught up with her own thought. "You're his wife." "Yes." She stepped back, shaking her head. "He's dead, isn't he?" "Yes," I said softly. "I buried him 3 months ago." Emily's breath hitched. She leaned on the counter like she might fall. "He used to write me letters when I was little. I never told my parents. He said he was a family friend. He sent drawings, birthday cards, things he said my mother liked. When I turned 12, they stopped coming." She looked at me, tears gathering in her eyes. "I thought he'd forgotten me." My throat burned. "He never did. He tried to find you again. He left everything he could for you." She covered her mouth with both hands. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve to know you were loved, even if it was in silence." The sound of the automatic doors broke the moment. Julia's voice carried before I saw her. "Mom!" She marched in, fury flashing like a storm. "You had no right to come here." Emily straightened, startled. "Julia, please." "No, you dragged us into this mess, and now you're harassing some stranger because of his mistakes." "I'm not a stranger," Emily said quietly. Julia turned on her. "You're what? His secret? His mistake? His daughter," I said before I could stop myself. The words split the air in two. Julia froze, then turned away, hands shaking. "Then you got what you wanted," she whispered. "You found her. Congratulations." She stormed out, leaving the door swinging behind her. Rehook. Emily's voice was barely a whisper. "He told me once he'd hurt someone he loved and couldn't fix it. I didn't know he meant you." And for the first time, I saw the truth in her eyes. She'd known who I was all along. The storm between us didn't break right away. Julia stopped speaking to me for 3 days, and Rachel tried to bridge the silence by pretending everything was normal. Cooking, cleaning, humming songs that didn't belong to this house anymore. But the air felt split in two, before Emily and after her. Then, one morning, a letter arrived. No envelope, just a folded page slipped into the mailbox with my name written in steady, careful print. "I think we should talk. The Pier at Sunset, by Emily." I went alone. The sea was calm that evening, a thin wind moving over the water. She was already there, sitting on the railing, her hair loose, eyes fixed on the horizon. When she turned, the light caught her face, and for a moment I saw Daniel in her smile. the same small apologetic curve he used when words failed him. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said. "I wasn't sure I should." She nodded, as if that made sense. I found more of his letters, the ones he sent before he died. My adoptive mom kept them. She said he wrote every year, even after I stopped answering. He told me about you, about your daughters, about how he wished he'd been braver. The ocean hissed between us. "I know he never stopped thinking about you," I said quietly, "even when I didn't know why. He think he wanted you to know the truth, not to hurt you, to make peace with what he couldn't undo," she said. I looked at her, really looked. The way she carried herself, measured, cautious, like someone who had learned to live without being claimed. "You remind me of him. The quiet, the way you think before you speak." She smiled faintly. I got his silence then. We stood there for a long time, watching the sky fold into gold and gray. "I'm not looking for a family," she said finally. "I have one, but I'd like to know where I came from, what he was like when he wasn't a mistake." "I think you could tell him that yourself." She blinked and a tear slipped down her cheek. "I'd like to visit him," she whispered. "Of course." A week later, we went together to the small cemetery at the edge of town. She placed a single white lily on his grave, her hand trembling. Julia came too, standing a few steps away. For once, she didn't argue. She just watched. Afterward, Julia hugged me without words. Rachel linked arms with Emily as if it were the most natural thing in the world. That night, when I came home, I replayed the last part of Daniel's tape. His voice soft but certain. "If love is a wound, let it scar into something honest." And I realized he had been right. Love doesn't vanish. It hides, waits, and when you're ready, it comes home.